everybody, sometimes you just gotta milk a hamster to bake a cake. Alright, so we got another discussion topic to break down and for me to run my suck. Anyway, let's go back to what we usually do. Alright, so for this discussion, we have been asked to compare and contrast lever action firearms with bolt and single shot firearms. I've been asked to describe and the troubleshooting a lever action or repeating arm is rather unique and comes with its own set of challenges compared to a bolt or single action firearm. So we got our good trusty world disassembler game thingy right here. This thing's a lifesaver when you're trying to explain or see how things work. So right now we're going to have the Sharps rifle and we're going to take a look on the inside, or let's actually hop back and take a look at the good old Winchester 1873. So let's go to operations. Let's let this bad boy load up. I'm going to go into X-ray real quick. Alright, so right off the bat we're going to see the original likeness of the repeating arms design and idea, how it became a lot more why it became liked and preferenced over those good old rolling blocks, fallen blocks, and old school muzzle loaders, right? Is we have a capability of a tubular magazine that can hold to what have you amount of rounds depending on your weapon, obviously, or private customizations of magazine tubes. Alright, we've all seen that weird revolver thing that people have been sticking on competition shotguns. But anyway, so coming from that, it's a lot more uncommon magazine type. Generally what we see now are just standard old box mags for ARs and AKs. You have those internal magazines for those stereotypical hunting rifles that are mocks of old Mausers, Mosins, and Enfield designs. So we just have a different way to put the bullets into the gun. Alright. Also, we have a more critiqued and hullabaloo when it comes to the actual cycle of operations, which would be manually interacted with the shooter, aka us. I am sorry, my mustache is folding into my mouth, everybody. One moment, please. Alright, so on that, we're going to have to improve or have a better understanding of how springs are tempered and taken care of, because obviously this weapon was originally designed in 1873, so you're going to see a lot of prominence with weapons being older, worn in, grandpa's old daggone 3030s got sitting in the shelf up there, like we discussed in the last gunsmithing video. And then we're also going to have a difference in heat treating methods. It's a lot more prominent for the outside to actually be treated in due to prior methods of hardening those metals and such. They had softer metals with harder exteriors. Obviously, if something's going to sit there in half-age, those materials are going to start popping into their half-life and start breaking down into weaker structures of themselves. So you got to be pretty aware of mushrooming, fouling, or just general wear and tear on components that are experiencing high levels of friction. Alright. Also, we have a unique loading system of the lifter. Hold on, let me get the parts names. So we have our carrier block and a stupid notification in the front. We have a carrier block, we have a cover spring because it loads from a side gate, and also we have a lot of smaller pieces that have to correspond with the proper size and proper measurements for the timing of this. So, for an example, I'm going to fire, and I'm going to slow it down because that just wasted time. Alright, so from that, we have the manual manipulation of the action. So if we look over to this good old side and watch all these bits and bobs repeatedly have to move and cycle, those things are going to be specifically timed and keyed to move when they need to. So if those parts start to get worn, you're going to start bumping into weird moments where you're going to be experiencing double feeds or short stroking. Yet again, is when you are not properly allowing that lever to go all the way forward and all the way back. And also, you might have a case of rim lock. That is when a rimmed cartridge, to where the base of that round protrudes larger than the standard diameter of the actual cartridge. Alright, and that can get caught up on any daggum thing inside here. Make sure that you guys aren't using those sharp tipped or Spencer shaped rounds when you're actually loading them into your tubular magazine weapons. May that be if you're shooting weird custom saboed shotgun shells or Grandpa's old 30-30, you're properly putting the right ammunition inside there, because the last thing you want to do is have a chain fire, and that is when you have pointed bullets in a tubular magazine, they are resting snugly on the primer. And that's sitting there on the primer, and you have a sharp pointy tip. All it needs is one good jolt, aka the weapon firing or being dropped or banged into something, to just give it just enough force to allow that primer to detonate. And next thing you know, you got your gun turning into a pipe bomb in your hands right in front of your face. So we're going to back up out of this, and we are going to go into a good old weapon that will be Grandpa's old single shot breakdown, wherever that will be hiding. Okay, let's take a look at the Model 21. Alright, we're going to demonstrate off of this. Let's just pretend that it's a old school, but someone decided to break one of the hammers. Alright, so when it would come to a single shot, let's actually go to the sharps rifle. My apologies, everybody. Let's circle back here because Doc's a goofball. Alright, let's go up to S. And sharps. Sharps. Checking. There it is. Alright, so we have a single shot sharps rifle. Model 1874. Alright, so with single shot weapon designs, guess what? You're going to have that one lovely round that will be nestled and sitting inside your beloved boomstick. Alright, so from inside there, you are going to have to experience the design and ideas, circle around a lot more springs and a lot more components that are designed to be properly timed with that. Most single shot weapons that have a surplus history are conversions of old percussion cap flintlocks that were also converted from old flintlocks. Alright, now the interesting premise behind this is when the weapon is fired, I'm going to slow that down to preemptively catch myself a breath. When you're in the reloading process, it's going to commonly involve a half cock capability, ensure that you're safe. Alright, and then it's going to proceed with the manipulation of some kind of lever or a thumb catch that you'd have to lift, and from there that's going to open the chamber breech block to then allow you to remove, unless there is a manual extractor or a manual ejector to help aid in the process of slightly pulling that round out so you can get that out of there. Slap a new round in, and then obviously you'll reverse the process to where you raise it and then you bring the hammer to full cock. Now we're going to go over to bolt guns. Let's go with the, since we're in S's, where is the Springfield? Springfield. Alright, so the US design, 1903, off of the Mauser action. This was the standard infantry rifle for the US military going into World War I. World War I, and then at the beginning of World War II before the adoption of the M1. Now, with bolt guns, you will see there is a large rod that hangs off the dominant side of the weapon. I don't want to say right side because I shoot left-handed and I have the dreams to have a nice Mauser action that fires left-handed. But enough of me. Back to Mr. Springfield. So, let me actually get the full size bolt. Alright, let's get back to it. So, in front of us is the M1903 Springfield, American design, standard issued bolt action rifle that served us through World War I and the early stages of World War II. Alright, I'm going to compare and contrast this weapon to the previous two, that'd be the Sharps rifle and the Winchester. Alright, so for this bolt action weapon, we have the experience of the rotating bolt being correspondent with locking lugs. So these boys right here correspond with opposing recesses inside the chamber, which allows that action to lock itself into its air, or lock itself into one unit to thus increase its capabilities and strengths for when that round fires, because, well, Newton's law, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. That barrel wants to go that way, while everything else on the weapon wants to go that way. So we have to figure out a way to help prevent those pressures from venting all those gases. Thus, the idea of the locking lugs being mounted to the actual bolt and the actual rotation of it provides the ability of locking in the cycle of operations. Now, another unique feature is for that dominant side of the weapon is going to have that actual bolt handle. So instead of having a lever or a manual key that gets rotated to allow the action to open, there is a actual handle mounted to the bolt that the upward and rearward pressure would allow that unlocking or locking and allowing that chambering or that extraction of that. Commonly, you'll see the actual safety mechanism being mounted to the top of the bolt. That's prevalent in Enfield and Mauser and also Nagant designs. And the normal detachment for that will change varying in the individual's designer purpose of the weapon. Thank you. Hope you guys have a nice day. And as always, treat every weapon as if it were loaded. Never point your weapon at anything you do not intend to shoot. Keep your fingers straight out the trigger until you're ready to fire. Keep it well on safe until you intend to fire. Know your target what lies beyond and in between. Please be safe. And as always, please like, favorite, and subscribe. Goodbye.
Welcome to Dan Doc's channel.